What's up, guys? Matty here, mixandmastermysong.com. A lot of you guys have asked for a free mixing template, and I do have one, and I'm actually going to put it in the link below. You can download it. It works in Pro Tools, Studio One, Logic, and Ableton. So any of those programs you have, you can use the template, and it uses only stock plugins. So whatever plugins that came with your DAW, you'll have the plugins. So it's great to get started with. What we'll do today is I'll show you how I have it set up in Studio One. It's basically set up the same in all the other DAWs, just with a little bit variations on plugins. But I'll show you how I have it set up and how I use it and why and how it might be helpful for you to use when you start your mixes. Before we do get started, please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. Let's go. All right, guys, so here is the template in Studio One. So basically what I like to have is a bunch of effects set up, which are all these. So when I want, like, say, a room sound, I can go and click a send on a track, and there it is. So if you look at the sends here, I have plates, a room, a hall, some ambience, which is good just to, like, maybe not feel like reverb, but just give it some depth. I have an eighth note delay ready to go, a quarter note delay ready to go, a half note delay ready to go, a telephone sounding delay ready to go, and I'll show you how these are all set up. And then a doubler, which can help thicken, vocals, make it sound more doubled, kind of like a chorus effect, if you will. After that, I like to subgroup all my different instruments into, depending on the track, 4 or 5 different subgroups. So we have drums, bass, music, vocals, and effects. Now, the effects are actually the returns from here. So these will actually be assigned to effects over here. And so that way, if the overall effects are just too loud or too soft, you can turn them down globally. And if they're maybe too bright, you can put an EQ right on the full effects and just maybe shelf a little bit of the high end. So that's why I like to have the effects go to a separate bus. Now, I like to also have the drums, bass, and music and vocals go to separate buses, because once you get a mix done, you're almost done. Maybe the vocals just like a little too loud. So that way, if you have it on a bus, so all the vocals are going here, you can turn them down just a dB, maybe a dB and a half, so that they fit in a bit better. Same thing with drums. If your drums, maybe once you get all the other music going, if you mix like I do with drums and bass first, get the rhythm section going, and then bring in the music and vocals, sometimes your drums might start to get a little bit buried once you have everything else going. So that's the other thing. With having this globally, you can, turn it up a little bit or turn it down a little bit, and it might, help instead of having to, like, figure out how to turn everything up on all your different drum stems. It makes things easier. And the other cool thing, what you can do here is say you have a chorus coming in, you can take just 3 of these and just automate them up a dB so the chorus lifts when it comes in. So I'm a big fan of having all these different subgroups. Now let's run through the effects real quick. So this is just using the open air in Studio One. You do have to have the reverb responses downloaded in order for this to work. So make sure you download those when you download Studio One. We have a plate, which is really good for vocals, and then I have an EQ after that, shelving off a little low end and a little high end, just so it doesn't build up too much. Reverb can really, muddy up a mix. So, you can play with these, and a lot of times I'll actually add to the shelf and bring the EQ down here on the low cut. But it really depends on the song. But, play with these. If you feel like your mix is getting a bit muddy, start messing with the EQ and the reverb. And sometimes you can cut right here as well. If it's, if the vocal's just getting a little too out of place, right? So we get a plate, which is really good for vocals and snares and stuff like that. Then a room, just a little room reverb. Add some ambience to drums. Add a bit this to your vocals. Sometimes if it's an intimate vocal and you don't really want a big long reverb, but you want it to give it some space, room reverbs are great for that. Halls are great for vocals as well, and string instruments, stuff like that. So I have a hall, and then ambience is kind of an interesting effect. It's a good sounding reverb that just gives energy, but doesn't always sound like complete reverb. And you can also do cool things like the 80s snare, the non-lin. They have the non-lin setting, so like the 80s snare effect on there. Next 3 here are eighth note, quarter note, and half note delays. And I just used beat delay in Studio One, and then if you're using one of the other programs I have the template for, it's a different delay, but works just the same. Telephone delays are really cool for delay throws at the end of a word. So like if the line ends at the verse, you can throw this telephone delay on, just turn it on and off with automation, and it will make a cool effect to kind of lift you into the chorus. So this is just super filtered with a bit of boost in the middle here, and it makes it sound like a phone, basically. And then the doubler is just a chorus. If you have the Waves doubler, it might work a little bit better, but I wanted to make sure that this worked with just stock plugins. But this works well to give you kind of a doubling, fuller effect. And lastly, oh yeah, on the drums I put the fat channel. Nothing's there, but I like a Neve 1073 sound on drums, so they have that in Studio One on the fat channel. So you can mess around with EQ. I have a little bit of boost here. And then sometimes I'll parallel compress my drum bus, so you can play with all that stuff there. And then same thing on the master bus, we have the fat channel just with, well, actually nothing's turned on, but this was, so sometimes I like to use the pull tech, and I actually have it set up and in the preset. This is how I like to set my pull tech setting on the master bus. So you can turn that on or off. I have it off as you download it. But this is a great setting. Turn this on before you start mixing, and it will actually make your mix go quite a bit faster. And then this is just a basic compressor, kind of set up like a SSL compressor would be. Just take off a dB or two just to glue the mix together a bit, and this can work really well. And then finally a limiter to get your overall level up, so that it can compete with other songs on the radio. And lastly, on this post section, I have just a level thing, which you can put on a different screen just to see where your levels are. Sometimes these meters aren't as detailed as maybe this one will be. So anyway, I hope these templates can help you guys. I always find that having a template set up isn't necessary. Like, you don't want to make it so that you're doing the same thing every time, but it's great to be able to, like, I need a room reverb, boom, turn on the send, and it's ready to go. Or, hey, I want to throw a delay, a quarter note delay at the end of this line. You have it set up. So having like a group of different effects ready to go makes you stay creative quicker, so that you can just like have an idea and execute it right away, as opposed to like setting up a send and a return and setting up the delay. You might even forget the idea you have, but by the time you get everything set up. So I hope these templates can help you guys out. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. If you need your songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also get other templates with Waves and Slate plugins, which are for purchase on my site as well, if you have some of the Waves plugins or Slate plugins. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.